Hi all. So for paper 2, your first question for health will ask you to look at a source. It will be source A. It will ask you how useful is source A to a historian studying, and it will pick something. Now on the right hand side of the screen you can see the sort of things they've focused on before. It will ask you to explain your answer using source A and your contextual knowledge of the period. So highlighted in red there is what will always remain the same, the question stem. What will change is obviously the particular focus you need to look at. That was an 8-mark question, so we know that to get high marks in this, we're looking for ideally 2 paragraphs. We're spending about 10 minutes on this. And just before we go any further, there's a key point for this question. The source will always be useful, be positive. You do not get marks if you look at what the source does not mention. The source cannot cover everything. So, let's have a look at this question then. So this question says, how useful is source A to a historian studying vaccination? And we've got here a picture with the content where we can see a doctor giving injections. We can see cow parts coming out of people. They look quite shocked. We'll zoom in on that in a minute. And for the provenance, where the sources come from, we've got quite a bit of information to work with here. A cartoon drawn in 1802 by James Gilray is generally thought to show Edward Jenner giving his patients the new inoculation at St Pancras Hospital in London. However, historians have suggested that the patients are Dr. William Woodville's, who ran the hospital. He was in dispute with Jenner after some of his patients died from smallpox when he used Jenner's technique. So, let's just zoom in on that picture so you can see it in detail. You can obviously pause the video if you need to as well. And what can we learn from this source about vaccination then? So before you write an answer, look at that source, just make some notes about the overall message it's giving to help you plan your answer. You would look at the provenance and do the same thing as well. What information can you pull out? You do need to talk about the provenance in one paragraph to get to higher levels. And in that sense, it's a bit different to the Elizabeth interpretation question you'll do in this exam. I would try to include the provenance information and why that makes it useful in a paragraph that discusses what you can learn from the source. I would not do a provenance paragraph just by itself. It won't be as strong. 2 things you can learn from the contents, and at one point in one of the paragraphs, link in the provenance. So looking at this, what can we see? With the picture itself, we have got here the person administering the vaccinations. We believe is Dr. William Woodville, someone who dislikes Jenner. We can see we've got cow parts growing from patients who took the vaccination. And if we look at the provenance, we've got this phrase, the new inoculation. Well, that means vaccination. And a bit of historical knowledge, we've got that some of the patients died from smallpox. That was due to dirty equipment, not the procedure itself. Of course, Woodville wouldn't have known about that due to a lack of germ knowledge at the time. Now we've made some notes, this is how I'd lay the answer out. Firstly, I would focus on the question and give a theme, something you can learn from this. So you can see how I've laid this out. Source A is useful to a historian studying vaccination. I've got that focus on the question there, as it shows the distrust people had in the new vaccination. This is the first thing we'll be talking about. This is my first theme. What I then need to do is I need to show where I've got that from in the source. How has the source shown me that to back it up? So I've written here, this is shown by the fear in people's faces in the image, as they have cows growing out of their arms after they've been injected by the smallpox vaccine by Dr. William Woodville. So I'm backing up where I've got that theme from. Next part's the main part. This is your own knowledge. So you're showing your understanding of the events. So I start off to be clear to my examiner with, from my own knowledge, and I've just written there, this makes the source useful, again repeating that key term in the question, when studying vaccination, as people did not like the vaccination. Partially this was when Jenner could not explain how the vaccine worked. This was as there was no knowledge of germs until Pasteur's germ theory in the 1860s and how they caused disease at this time. This led to resistance to the vaccination from many groups. For example, inoculators who felt they would lose business to the vaccination. I know that William Woodville was unable to replicate the work of Jenner in London due to dirty equipment. I'm just going to pause it there because you can see I've highlighted where I've got good knowledge showing a good understanding of the event and the time period itself. What I've then carried on doing is started to link the provenance in, like I mentioned earlier. It's not enough for a paragraph on its own, but I'm showing I've understood the provenance. And so the message of the cartoon seems to be that vaccination is dangerous to people. This could have been created as a warning to people of the dangers of vaccination and to put them off having it. So here I've linked in the provenance. I've explained why this was made, what was the aim of this cartoon. Finally, as always, I just want to link back. Overall, the source is useful to historians studying vaccinations as it highlights public opinion and how a lot of people oppose this new medicine. Just to tighten that paragraph up. And that is what a paragraph would look like, breaking it down into those 4 sections. My theme, where I've got that from, bringing in my own knowledge, and then linking back afterwards and explaining those points as clearly as I can. Now, for 4 marks, that would be enough, 1 paragraph, but we need to try and get 2 paragraphs in to get more marks. So here's an example of a second paragraph. It shows the origins of vaccination. I can see parts of the cow emerging, and from my knowledge, and that Jenna made the link between cowpox and smallpox, as milkmaids who caught cowpox will not have caught smallpox after. This knowledge allowed him to begin his testing on injecting doses of cowpox and smallpox later into an 8-year-old boy. When he showed no signs of smallpox at all, it was clear that vaccination worked. After multiple tests, Jenna released this vaccination and eventually received government support, removing smallpox as a disease. And again, I'm linking back. Overall, the source is useful to historians studying vaccinations as it highlights the origins of vaccination and where Jenna got the idea from. So that's what our answer would look like altogether. There are 2 ideas, 2 separate themes, backed up from the source, own knowledge, and linking provenance there somewhere. So just some things to think about. First of all, remember, 2 developed themes, 2 developed ideas that you can learn. Try and be as broad as possible so you can write down as much as you can. Bring in that precise own knowledge to show your understanding of the events. Link the point you made to the source. The question says using source A, so you need to use that source in there. You can't just write down what you know about Jenna and vaccination. Please, please, please remember all sources are useful. Do not write down the source doesn't tell me this, the source doesn't say that. Find 2 reasons it's useful and explain them. You will not get credited for saying the source isn't useful. It's not designed to show you everything. And then finally, for those high levels, just try and link in the provenance. Why does it make it more useful? Think about things like the message, for example.